Final game on Thursday night features the 3 seed Texas Tech and the 10 seed Arkansas in the West region. Texas Tech here favored by 5.5. Arkansas really on a bit of a Cinderella run. I know Coach Cal is back in the good graces of a lot of people in this country after winning a couple tournament games and the bleakness that their season started with. But here they are, making it to the second weekend after quite disappointing runs while he was at Kentucky, or lack thereof, getting bounced early in the last few years. But, they're facing a Texas Tech team that has played very well. The other day just kind of dominated on the interior against Drake, as we had kind of expected. I think this game, I expect Texas Tech to take care of business here, but there's no denying like March magic, and Arkansas seems to be playing super well right now. But I think they run into kind of a wall here, and this is where their road ends.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like they're on a good run, obviously, but we weren't the highest on Kansas or St. John's, really.
Yeah,
and the Big East kind of showed how weak they were. I mean, UConn looked pretty good against Florida, but obviously we talked about that a little bit and how they're a tough prep. But I mean, I think Tech matches up fairly well here. Like I've talked about enough times here that Arkansas is a much worse offense when they're put into a half-court setting, and Texas Tech is in the 8th percentile in transition opportunities allowed. They're not great when defending, when teams get out in transition, but the fact that they're emphasizing getting back on defense, I think, is enough here to kind of slow down Arkansas, who grades out far worse when you throw them in the half court. They're in the 48th percentile in the entire country in efficiency in the half court. So it's a fairly good matchup for Tech's defense. That it's a good defense. It's rock solid, and they don't do anything necessarily poorly. It's like a drop coverage scheme. They do a pretty good job guarding in space, but so I think they match up. That does make it a fairly good matchup for them. And Tech's offense is really hard to guard. I know Arkansas has a ton of athletes on that end, so they should be able to compete on the defensive side. But if Chance McMillan comes back for Texas Tech, I think that'll be huge. I'm not really sure what the status of that is. I was a bit surprised that he didn't play at the first 2 games. So not really sure if we're going to see him even the rest of the season. They just labeled it as an upper body injury. So not really sure what his status is, but I do think Texas Tech has enough weapons to help replace him. They have a ton of spacing all over the floor. And I don't think Darian Williams really gets talked about enough, how good he is on the offensive end. He's so versatile. He does everything well. Great 3-level scorer. Basically a point forward for this team. Like Elijah Hawkins is great, but I think Darian Williams, you can run the offense through him and they would be just fine. So I like Tech to win this game because I think their defense is in a pretty good spot. I mean, that's their more vulnerable end of the floor, and Arkansas can't really exploit them there. So yeah, I'll take Tech here.
Yeah, I think Tech also is going to be able to get on the offensive glass with Williams and Toppin here. Arkansas 154th in defensive rebound rate, and Tech's 57th in offensive rebound rate. I think that's an area where they can have quite a bit of success. And then I just think their defense is going to be able to do enough against this Arkansas offense that, for the better part of this season, we were talking about how unimpressive it really was. So I'm not going to let 2 games like completely change my viewpoint on Arkansas, although they obviously been playing better over the last month and a half, but I'm still not super high on them. I like Tech. I think their shooting ability here in this game to match with their offensive rebounding is going to pose a problem. So I'm going to take Tech here to win this.
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas might get Thero back. It sounds like he was going to start practicing this week and hopes to play. And he's really important for their offense. He's probably their most important offensive player on this team. Just, being able to get downhill and score at the rim and give this team more of an offensive floor, I think would be really important. But you could throw Darian Williams on Thero because Williams is one of the more underrated defenders in this league as well. So Yeah, I just think Tech's too balanced. I think they have the coaching edge, regardless of what Calipari has done during this run in these few games. I don't really put much stock into them being in the Sweet 16, just playing some overvalued teams. And I really trust Grant McCaslin. He can grind this game to a halt and make Arkansas feel really uncomfortable. So yeah, I think Tech moves on to the Elite Eight. Hopefully they get to the Final Four and potentially, have a chance at a title, just because we talked about it in the best bets on the futures episode. We have them to win it all at what, plus 3,500. So we got that.
Yeah.
So I think they're built to do it. They're going to need McMillan at some point, but I think they're going to be okay here.
Yeah. So we're going to take Texas Tech here to win in the Sweet 16, move on to the Elite Eight, and potentially set up for a matchup with Florida on Saturday night.